I'm Christopher Marx. I am a bartender here at Packwoods in Maitland. Well, this bar is owned by a hospitality group, Thriving Hospitality, and I've been with them for several years. I started with them at Thrive downtown. So I applied for them as a bar back in 2021, and I kind of fell in love with the craft. I started prepping. One of the managers there, she gave me keys to the building, and she said to come in and prep with her every single Wednesday. And I fell in love with it. It felt like cooking, So I went in and I prepped syrups, juices, tinctures, clarified cocktails, homemade orgeats, all that kind of stuff, And here we are, like 4 years later. See, I guess I'm a little bit different because I envy people who make cocktails based on like flavor pairings, right? Like some kind of obscure vegetable and fruit they think about pairing with some other botanical, and they know that the flavors would go really well together. My brain doesn't work like that. I don't think that way. I start with like an ethos. I start with like an idea, a concept that I want to see portrayed through a cocktail. You know what I'm saying? So I'm working on a cocktail now called Classical Conditioning, and it's kind of just a dirty martini riff. I'm playing with a few different things like fat washing with blue cheese. But the main ethos behind it, the idea behind it was I kind of didn't like how people's reactions to dirty martinis or spirit forward or savory cocktails in general is always so like immediate, They immediately jump to being disgusted by these kind of cocktails, or they think they don't like them because they've had one somewhere that didn't make it for them correctly, right? It's like they've Pavloved themselves, right? Like Pavlov's dogs, classical conditioning and stuff. So that's kind of the idea behind that cocktail, trying to beat the stigma between some of these dirty martinis and dry martinis, wet martinis, Vespers even, right? They're very hard to find a general audience for, I don't know, it feels like a lot more than just bartending, right? This industry is one of the only jobs where you're kind of doing everything, right? You're creating the product, right? But you're providing a service. You're kind of performing as well. You're a salesman. It's a lot of different stuff that goes into it. I really enjoy the guests. I really enjoy all the people that I sit down with and talk to every single day. But I also really enjoy the time when I'm in the bar all by myself, prepping up, making new recipes, and trying to pitch it to ownership. And I don't know, it feels like art to me, I really enjoy milk punches, traditional ones like with brandy and rum, but I like to clarify anything, Like, my clarified whiskey sour or New York sour that I had in my last bar was a big hit. And so today I'm going to be doing a pretty simple one. Over the last couple of days, I made a green grape cordial, like a white grape cordial. Just macerated grapes, citric acid, sugar. I raised the ABV with some Kettle One and some Amaro as well. And let that first sit for a little while, strained it off, regular green grape cordial. That's gonna be one of the main spirits in the cocktail. I'm gonna use a little bit of grappa, which is like a pomace brandy, right? And then pisco, all right? Those three spirits, lemon, honey. I'm gonna clarify that using whole milk. And then we'll give that a try, huh? So today I'm gonna be clarifying a cocktail. There's no name for it, untitled, unmastered. I'm kind of just working on this at the moment. I have this green grape cordial. Other spirit's gonna be pisco and grappa, which is pomace brandy. It's a very grape-themed cocktail today. Honey and lemon as our sweetener. I only have about 9 ounces of whole milk available to me at the moment, so that's what we have to work with. So I'm not gonna be making a whole big batch like for service, but I'll be able to get a few cocktails out of this. So what I'm gonna do is about 9 ounces of my green grape cordial. Oh yeah. Jeez. I'm gonna go equal parts pisco. Boom, boom. I'm gonna go 4 ounces of grappa. 4 ounces of our house honey. So I do this carefully. I'm gonna do just 2 ounces of this lemon juice. This green grape cordial that I prepared about a day or 2 ago is quite tart as it is. Use citric acid and lime in the recipe. So this is only gonna need maybe an extra ounce of lemon juice. No, I'm sorry, 2 ounces. Add a little mix. So now what we're gonna do, take the original whole milk that we set to the side early on. Rule of thumb for me, whenever I clarify cocktails, is I really enjoy matching the amount of citrus I have in my cocktail, right, to the amount of whole milk that I'm clarifying it with. Some people will do like 1/4 of their total recipe. I feel it's a bit inconsistent because sometimes it won't curdle all the way or curdle too much. It all depends. Too little milk and too much milk give you the exact same product, right? It's not able to clarify properly, so you end up with a cloudy product. I think the best way to get the best product when you're clarifying cocktails is to keep your milk and your citrus perfectly even. So I did the 9 ounces, that's it. And always cocktail into milk, never milk into cocktail, rule of thumb. So here we go. Give that one good stir. You can already see it doing its job. So what happens here is when that citrus, and not just the citrus, but the impurities in the sugar, the tannins in the liquor, all the impurities found within this cocktail batch, as soon as it hits the milk, as soon as it hits the lactose, it curdles, turns to solids. Now it seems a little bit gross. A lot of people are turned off by that, but it's just a chemical reaction, right? It's similar to what chefs do, cheese curds, lemon curds. It's just the reaction between the lactose and that citrus, or the impurities in general, right? So that strips it all. That strips it of all the impurities and all of its color. So you let this sit for a good, if we had all the time in the world, I would go 24 hours, but we don't have that kind of time. I'm gonna let it sit probably about half an hour, and especially since it's a small batch. If it was a large batch of 12 liters or more, absolutely 24 hours at a minimum. But I can get away with about half an hour right now. So what'll happen is it'll curdle more, and I'll set up some coffee filters and strain that through there to completely strain off all of the milk solids. And what you're left with then is a clear, silky smooth, clarified cocktail that's also shelf stable. That doesn't get talked about enough. If you make it correctly, it is shelf stable for months, if not years. That's where this tradition comes from. Traditional cocktails, or traditionally clarified cocktails, are very old. Benjamin Franklin was a big pioneer of this kind of stuff, right? This was before ice, this was before refrigeration. If I wanted to make a big cocktail batch like this and keep it in my fridge and pour it for my guests, it would go bad in a week. 5 days, 7 days would be unusable, right? But by using the lactose, the whole milk, the clarification process, you pretty much render it shelf stable. You can drink this for years to come, serve it to your guests at the house. You can have multiple different clarified cocktails ready to go in your freezer door. All right, so now after we've given it a little bit of time, it's time to strain. I like to use coffee filters, right? A lot of people will gravitate towards cheesecloth, but I think for clarified cocktails, that's the wrong move. You do get a lot of that particulate ends up making its way through the cheesecloth, and there's not much you can do about it. With a paper coffee filter and a secondary coffee filter on the bottom, you have a lot more control over your product. So what I'll do is I'll start with that, I'll dump it in here, and let it strain off. But for the first few minutes, everything that comes out of that filter needs to be refiltered, right? And it's going to be foggy for a few minutes. What this is going to allow for the lactose, all those solids, to build up another layer inside of the coffee filter, right? And once that's completely solidified and it goes drop by drop by drop, we switch containers, and that clear liquid that starts coming out, that's our product, right? So it takes a bit of waste, and not so much waste, but refiltering in order to get it right. So let's go ahead and get that started. Directly into the coffee filter. And I don't know if you can see it from there, but it's coming out quite quickly. That's not good. You let that go for as long as you As long as you feel comfortable, right? You let that go and you allow the lactose to create a filter of its own. Once that starts to run very, very clear and much slower than that, we switch containers and then you're good to go. And that's gonna take some time. I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, now that it's been a couple minutes, you can kind of see here that the dripping has slowed down substantially. Now it's drop by drop by drop. All right, and the product down here is very cloudy, not what you want the clarified cocktail to look like. So a lot of people get a little bit discouraged, right? They see that and they think they didn't do it properly. No, you just gotta be a little bit more patient. You then switch containers, and everything you've already strained gets refiltered. It's hard for a lot of people to do, right? They just earned this, but nope, gotta put it right back in. And now that is going drop by drop by drop. That will be your final product. You let that add up for however long it takes. And that's it, I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so I'd say now we have just enough to make a cocktail. Take that off. Let that continue to drip off to the side. And there you have it. So we're gonna go ahead, grab the Yari. Measure out 4 ounces. Perfect. And we're gonna stir it. If I were to have included any water in my cocktail batch here, right, to account for dilution, I could go straight from the bottle to the glass. But I prefer a little bit more of a presentation, even when doing a clarified cocktail, right, to bottle it and to stir it, right? A little bit more of a presentation for your guests, so it seems like you're not just grabbing a bottle, pouring it into a glass, and handing it to them, you know? Something like this. There you have it, untitled, unmastered.